Peace, Oakland. What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Seneca Scott. I'm back. Always good to be back in town, although I do not appreciate always having to cross through the gauntlet of burnt out RVs and apocalyptic scenes in my neighborhood. It is always good to come back to Oakland, California. I do love this city, which is why I work so hard to try to save it. And I swear it's only up from here. Anyway, today's program, big labors, big checks, but our members left out of the loop. If you don't know, I used to be the East Bay director of SCIU 1021. But not just that, I actually went to Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. And I was a union organizer from the early 2000s, climbing up the ladder to director, etc. I've had a pretty exciting but turbulent career in labor. I've worked for, I believe, 16 different labor unions, mostly because I'm what you call organizational. If I don't agree with what you're doing, and I'll leave. I won't stab you in the back or sabotage the program. And many times I did not agree with the directions unions were taking, and I was very dissatisfied with the amount of services that we were providing our rank and file members, or I did not feel that we were living up to the promises that we told them we were organizing them. And so I'm not going to get too much into that, but if you didn't know that about me, you should know, yes, I was a union boss in Oakland. I came here in 2012, and I negotiated contracts as north as Richmond, as south as Fremont, and as east as San Ramon, housing authorities and courts and everywhere in between. We had several strikes, including the Port of Oakland, the City of Oakland, the infamous Bus strike, the City of Hayward strike, and Alameda Court, Superior Court strike, all of which were in the East Bay under not fully my leadership, but partially my leadership. And it was a very exciting time. But I left SCIU because of the same reason that brings me back to this episode today. Members were not being serviced properly, and what the union was doing had less and less to do with the rank and file and more what to do with social justice, which is a broad term. And at first, it sort of made sense to me. I mean, who doesn't want justice for everyone? Who doesn't want to advocate for the working class? But when the policies that you're implementing have an adverse effect to the people you claim to want to service, you sort of got to pump the brakes a little bit and take a different direction. So I want to give a little bit of background on labor unions and politics, sort of a briefing, if you will, so everyone is on the same page, so you can understand exactly how this works. So labor unions, contrary to popular opinion, do not spend union dues money on politics. They have to form political action committees, and then those political action committees that workers voluntarily give their money to can then support these politicians. But first, let me talk about how did unions go from representing mainly industrial workers to service workers to public sector labor union being, I believe, 70%, I'm sorry, 90% of the U.S. labor movement? 93% of the U.S. labor movement, I believe, are public sector labor unions. And I'm going to fact check myself real quick. 1 second. Okay, and we're back. So what I was getting at was what percentage of the U.S. labor force is public sector? And my numbers were correct. And you've got here a little chart showing the rise of government unions. It's good to fact check yourself. I don't want to give you any bad information. This may have changed slightly, but no, I was right on. The U.S. labor movement is well over 90% of the public sector, with 36% of the public sector being organized, period, and only 5% of the entire private sector of the labor movement being in the private sector. So what happened? If you see right around the 70s, you see the rise of public sector union and the decline of private sector unions. And then now you have it to the point where, as you see, right above 5, slightly above 5%, and slightly above 35% in the public sector, with the vast majority of the U.S. labor movement being public sector. So let me give you a quick U.S. labor history lessons for all of you who did not attend the Cornell University School of Labor Relations, as I did. Great program, by the way. I recommend it to anyone. Labor history is American history. So I'm not going to go through every one of these dates, but the American Federation of Labor was formed in 1986. And what you need to know about the AFL was formed by a man named Samuel Gompers, which was either a cigar roller or a shoemaker. And here you have Samuel Gompers. Oh, cigar roller, I was right. Okay, so Samuel Gompers is the father of the U.S. labor movement. And he was an immigrant from London, followed his father into the cigar trade, and led New York City's Cigar Makers International Union from 1875 to 1896. Unions were skilled labor. Skilled labor. So you made shoes, you rolled cigars, you were a tailor, you were a blacksmith, like the last name Smith, or Taylor, like the last name Taylor. Then the Industrial Revolution happened, and you had the CIO form, and that was in the 1935. The Congress of Industrial Organizations was formed. Also, you had the A. Philip Randolph, sleeping car porters, shout out to Oakland, first black labor movement, which led to the creation of the first black middle class. But those were sort of a service position, which was pretty much most of the job that black people were able to get in the early 1900s, unless we were working and self-employing ourselves. We did not have access to the same jobs as our white counterparts. But let's go to the CIO. Industrial organizing, the Industrial Revolution. So we went from skilled trades to the Industrial Revolution. And it doesn't go past that, but I wish it had a graph too. Oh, it does. Oh, my man, this is a good graph. Okay, so then you go all the way up to, this is the National Labor Relations Act fails in Congress in 1977, which would have made it easier for employers to unionize. That's important because what was happening in the 70s? In the 70s, we were moving from an industrial base to manufacturing base to a service economy. Then you had the rise of the Service Employees International Union, or the SEIU. Now today, one of the biggest, most powerful unions, especially when it comes to politics in the United States. And so what happened is unions started to decline right around the time when we became majority. Service industry and the U.S. manufacturing industry became outsourced, and you had NAFTA and all of these other things. Again, I don't have time for a full history lesson, but here's the trajectory. We went from skilled labor to industrial labor to a service economy. Now we're going into an AI economy. So we're about to see a fourth turning of the labor movement, which is already upon us with mass layoff. So that brings us to big labor and big checks. Now, in the early 2000s, when I entered the U.S. labor movement out of college as an organizer in California for the United Domestic Workers Union, we were going from what we called the service model to the organizing model. And the line of thinking was that unions had, for a long time, had focused on only servicing our existing bargaining unit, and we had seen an erosion of our membership. And so we started what was called an organizing model, which was an aggressive push to get more union members to join the union, and it worked. Then in the mid-2000s, we started to move toward what's called the social justice model. And here's where things get really, really funky. When you're talking about the social justice model, it became that social justice causes that weren't really directly related to our bargaining units that we service took a prominence over even organizing new members to the union, which then took a prominence over servicing those workers. Now, keep that in mind. That's going to be very, very important as we get to the next segment of the show when we look at a few interviews. Okay, so I got to present a video from Mike Benz. Now, Mike Benz has actually been dropping gems lately as an investigative reporter. He was in our community garden when we had our summer speaker series. I believe when we had Batya, or no, was it? I think it was Schellenberger came. We had he dropped by to say hello. But he's been on fire, which really exposing a lot of the underbelly of how this country has been co-opted by nefarious foreign entities. And if you don't believe me, just keep following the receipts. So let me present this video before we get into the meat of our episode, and then we're going to get out of here and enjoy the rest of our Friday evening editing this video or putting it out. to you so we can get you the news you need on Gotham, Oakland to figure out what the heck is going on with these unions. What are they after? Um, from someone who actually used to work there and has an inside scoop.
The unions, these groups like AF intermediated by the unions, these groups like AFL-CIO and SEIU and whatnot. I think there's this very unexplored layer which needs to be renegotiated, which is U.S. financial assistance to unions and worker groups internationally, with that money boomeranging back home to spill into paid protests. I think that's something that the Justice Department, the Department of Labor, and the State Department need to seriously reevaluate.
Yeah, they do. Because there's a lot of stuff going on, real shady stuff going on when it comes to what these unions are doing in our name. But don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Take the word for it from the union members themselves. Here's one.
We're trying to start our own union, man. We're not being supported. Business reps don't come around. We just, the people need representation. We're not getting it. They're putting money in, supporting these politicians, and they're going for layoffs. And the union is nowhere to be found. My name is Timothy Glasper, Glasper. Lived with the city of Oakland for 23 years. Former SEIU steward, former SEIU second vice president, former SEIU vice president. I understand how important a union is, and I'm willing to pay dues, but they have to earn my money. They have to work for it. I just didn't give it to them. I work hard for it just to give it away. Members are the union. We need to be member driven. We don't need someone downtown trying to tell us what we need. We need to tell them what we need, and they need to focus on getting our needs met.
So that's a member of Oakland Workers United, a new organization in the city of Oakland that is trying to free themselves from the oppression of SEIU 1021, who cares little about membership and representation and more, again, about politics and position themselves as power brokers for social justice. Very, very insidious. So I need to give you a quick education on what COPE is, why you're here. Union members' dues do not go directly toward politics. They are given to politics from a PAC called COPE. So we need to talk about COPE. This is union members who voluntarily give their money to support the various races. Now, when it comes to COPE, it all looks good, like they're actually doing their job. Town hall for members, democracy in action, blah, 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 blah. You can go there yourself. I just wanted to show you that it exists. Well, here's the real deal. I've run for 2 offices. I left this union in good standing. I've staffed several staffers who work for SEIU 1021 today, who are doing an excellent job, who have really helped that union to stay in power. I never had an interview. Matter of fact, the SEIU and the Central Labor Council, they dogpile in and pick candidates. If this was truly an organic process where every union was going back to their members and asking them who they thought the best person was to represent Oakland, do you really think they would come up with the exact same person every single time? No, the unions pick. And then they tell the people who they install in the COPE committee what they're going to spend the money on. And so the entire COPE process needs to be revamped, and union members need to stop paying into COPE if they don't actually have a direct choice to get the vote on which people the union wants to endorse for office and spend their money on. They're completely removed from the process. If you don't believe me, do even a basic amount of investigative reporting, and they're going to show you none of the members are. They would love to interview other candidates, but they never even get to interview them. Why not? Why are they selecting candidates a year, 2 years out sometimes, saying this is going to be all our person, our choice, and somehow every union in the area got the exact same choice? So we got a problem. The nurses union, amongst others, have not only poured in more money than any other candidates. Sorry about that. Go back. They gave another $50,000 recently on top of the $150,000 that they already have given to support Barbara Lee. And so why unions, particularly the nurses, spending all types of money to go negative on a black man. Here you have some of them here, right? Look how much these ads are costing: 52,000, 43,000, right? 250,000. You see down here at the bottom. And they're saying that Lauren was for defunding the police. Now he claims he was always against it. First of all, he never claimed he was always against it. Here's what happened. If you don't know, Nikki Bash and the Progressives wanted to defund the police by 50%. 50%, nearly $100 million. Lauren Taylor said, nah, we're not going to do that. Let's pump the brakes. Let's form what's called the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. And on this task force, there was Keisha. You guys know Keisha, Kel Wyatt, a lot of these names you know now. John Jones III. There was Tafara, and then there was, I can always forget the last one. And they were all black, and they all live in the hood. And they wrote a letter saying, do not defund the police without sensible alternatives, which was what Lauren always said. And then they only voted to defund the police by $18 million, which was much less than 50%. But here's what's even deeper. Why are the progressives lying about this? All of a sudden, they don't like defund the police. These are the people who were championed the defund the police movement. And now they're trying to not only get away from it, but blame people who fought them over it so that they can prosper. This is so crazy. Hold on, I need to pull up something. Okay. June 15, 2020, Councilmember Bash will introduce amendments to defund the police by $25 million. Now, Nikki Bash called on them to defund the police by 50%. And in the last 2 weeks, they were marching. Lauren did not consent, and because of that, here's all the stuff from ATPT. Defund OPD by at least 50%. Invest the money into the Black New Deal. Stop use of violence of any kind against protesters. Remove CHP from Oakland Street. Defund, defund, defund. This was all the stuff Nikki Fortunato bashed and wanted. I don't see Lauren anywhere here. I don't see Lauren supporting this anywhere here. As a matter of fact, this whole thing was meant to pressure Lauren Taylor about not supporting the movement. And so, we're going to find this. We're going to find this. Hold on. I got to find this. Wow. They are not. Did they scrub the internet? Did they do SEO searches to keep all the photos of the. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm going to find this. And we're back. All right. Here we go. I had to pull this up. So, Lauren Taylor's post. My team was looking through some albums today, and they uplifted these photos of protesters marching on my house in 2020 when I firmly stood against attempts to defund the police because there was no real plan to keep Oakland safe. Here you see Oakland Rising. You see Oakland Rising. You see Trash Night Heron, Trashes, Bitch Ass right there. And you see Defund OPD. They're chalking Defund OPD on Lauren's front yard. Now, why would they be doing that? Why would they be doing that if Lauren was for Defund the police, as they claim in these posters that they had and these mailers that they're sending out? They're desperate. And all of a sudden, progressives think Defund the police is bad. If you're one of those people who fall for this, you're the biggest freaking idiot in the world. Seriously. And if you don't see how desperate the unions are for spending $250,000 not only to smear a black man, right? Why don't they just spending big to go negative? Because they're scared. And all of a sudden they think defund the police is a bad thing. This is just crazy talk. But I want to go through a little bit more and show you just how much the unions are spending. And then I'm going to end with a little bit of rant, and I'm going to go edit this up and make it look good. On Shen Tao in 2022 mayor's election, SCIU Local 1021 spent $100,000 to help election Tao. Local 21 spent $110,000 to help election Tao. The Alameda Central Labor Council spent $100,000 to help election Tao. And the IA Local 55 firefighters spent $55,000. Total of $370,000 to fight the recall. They didn't spend quite as much, but they did spend some money. SEIU, $50,000, 2120. Labor Council, 10, firefighters, 2,500. Now it comes to Barbara Lee. SEIU 50, Local 2150. Labor Council 0. Maybe they're broke. Firefighters, 15,000, total of $115,000. When you add the nurses, $250,000. That's not on here. Here is what you get. The moderates, 12 progressives, front runners, and fundraising for Oakland's mayor race. Moderates are typically business community, as you see here with real estate donor Ron Nahas and others from the business community are donating from the moderate side. So let's see where the money's coming from. Lauren Taylor's support has come from Oakland residents and backers of the recall. And Lee is progressive, and her money comes from, let me see, the largest contributors to Lee's campaign was $150,000 from the California Nurses Association Political Action Committee and $51,000 from Local 21. We just went over that. And then CNA had added another $50,000 since this was reported, for a total of $200,000. That pretty much all of it went negative ads, again, blaming defunding police on Lauren Taylor. I used to work for California Nurses Association. It was actually an excellent union. I learned so much from my director, David Monkawa. But shame on you now. This is some of the most disgusting politics I've ever seen. You want to talk about changing some signs with AI or making fun of Oakland side with a Rickroll and a parody? Yo, you guys are literally blaming Lauren Taylor, who fought against the policies, and when he fought against it, you protested him, and then now just 5 years later, you want to act like it never happened, and he was the one who actually did it. And we don't have the internet. We're not going to be able to pull this stuff up and show you in Gotham, Oakland. You're a stupid little voter. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to vote when we say, because you're progressive like us. You don't want to feel bad. You're going to play along to get along. Yeah, the voters we're talking about are mostly white wokes or gentrifiers who do not care about the adverse effects these policies are having on our community today. I'm always ranting and raving on Gotham, Oakland. I should be having fun with my puppets. This is why I have them. But yo, come on now. This is literally the craziest shit I have ever fucking seen. In 45 years of my life, and 20 plus years in labor relations and politics, had someone in just 5 years want to memory hole their entire movement. And even while they're still fighting for defunding police, when they're in progressive rooms, they still talk like, I don't want police. I want nonviolent interventionists. I want to give money to MACRA. I want to give money to DVP, the Department of Violent Prevention. I don't want to give money to OPD. And then they went on the other side of their mouth say that Lauren Taylor is the one who started and led the defunding police movement. And if that was a bad thing, weren't you with him? Make it make sense. If you're one of the people who are parroting this lie, smack yourself. If you're one of those people, shame on you. All right, y'all. That's it. We're gonna wrap it up there. See you on Monday. Love you, Gotham, Oakland. We're gonna be sharing more about these unions. And I think there's something big gonna happen next week. I've been hearing some rumbling about something gonna develop in the next few days or so. And if and when it happens, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, y'all. Take care. Be good out there.
Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here.